All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krueg Show with a little 49er video as the Niners are showing interest in a particular player. And to me, it's very, very interesting. We'll talk about that player and why it's so interesting coming up next. But first, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out, and they do run out. So get there early, get some brisket chili. We're also brought to you by Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're at 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove, California. On the Monterey Peninsula, go call Anthony Catania. He's at 831-521-5264. And he's a great follow on Instagram at Sharp Corners 831 on the gram. And we're also brought to you by Claw Daddy Arcades. Check them out. They got brand new locations in Capitola Mall and Visalia Mall. They're a great follow on Instagram at Claw_Daddy_Arcades to find an arcade location near you. All right, let's talk a little Niners. The 49ers, we're in that dead time where there's not a lot going on. And so it's like, and the one thing I don't like doing is I don't like doing totally meaningless videos. I really don't. I only want to do videos if there's something really interesting or something revealing or something that's actually 49er fans care about. So I found it particularly interesting that the 49ers were one of the teams that explored adding free agent cornerback Damon Arnette, the former Ohio State Buckeye, the former first-round draft choice of the Las Vegas Raiders. They didn't wind up landing Arnette. Arnette wound up signing with the Houston Texans. The former first-round pick signed for $1.03 million to go play for D'Amico Ryans in the Houston Texans. And not surprising, Arnette was having a little bit of a career bounce back playing for the Houston Roughnecks of the United Football League. And he's playing in Houston, and now he's probably got a nice little thing going on, maybe an apartment, whatever, a nice little life going in Houston. And so it's very unintrusive for him to go from the Houston Roughnecks to the Houston Texans. He probably doesn't have to move. He doesn't have to change anything about his life. So I think it makes a lot of sense for Damon Arnette. But and the Niners weren't the only team to show interest. Obviously, the Texans showed interest. They signed him. The Green Bay Packers had significant interest as well. So why is this interesting? Well, it's interesting on a couple fronts. One, the 49ers, definitely don't like guys who have had problems with the law. They really don't. There's some teams will take guys who have had, lots and lots of problems with the law. For the 49ers, they try to steer clear of bad character guys for the most part. Arnette has had multiple off-field issues. Now, there's a reason to believe that he's got his life straightened out, that those issues are officially in the rearview mirror, and that whoever's going to get him next is going to get the best of Damon Arnette, who once upon a time, coming out of Ohio State, was a good enough player where he was a first-round draft choice, right? So he has always had major ability, and but he's had some off-field issues, and there wasn't one or two. It was like 4 or 5. And so just the fact that the 49ers are showing interest or showed interest at all in Arnette shows that they are sincerely interested in improving their cornerback depth in any way possible. Now, let's look at what the Niners did in the offseason. They lost a number of players, but they really didn't lose that many players that were really good, right? They lost some players, but they lost a lot of players that they either could easily replace or that were injured or older. Greenlaw is an example, really good player, but he's older and injured. But probably if you said, did they lose anybody that could actually play? And I think Greenlaw can play when he's healthy. But everybody else, like Debo, I think Debo's lost all of his ability to run. Don't think much of him. Hufanga, I think, is going to wind up being hurt a lot. Just don't think much of what he's going to contribute going forward. I just think these guys, they have big names, but they don't no longer have big games. But the guys that they did lose that I think can still play, one is Mooney Ward, right? They lost Mooney Ward, who is, I don't know if he was a number 1 corner, but he was a really good number 2. We'll say that. big body in his prime, physically dominant. He's moving on. He's no longer here. He's in Indianapolis with the Colts. You also lost Isaac Yiadom and Rock Ya-Sin, a couple veteran corners who are not great by any stretch, but they're veteran corners who have had some success in the NFL. So you lost 3 cover guys. And your cornerback depth, I mean, your top 3 guys are Demo Lenore and Renardo Green. And now the guy, your third-round draft choice, Upton Stout, is really your third corner. Renardo Green started 7 games in his first season last year. So now you're asking him to start the full year. Demo, you're asking him to leave the slot corner and play outside. And you're going to have Upton Stout, a 5'8" rookie from Western Kentucky, starting at the slot corner and being a huge part of your run D. So the Niner cornerback depth behind those 3 guys, I mean, first of all, you could say, well, you're one of those guys is you're leaning on as a rookie. But the cornerback depth behind there, you've got Trey Brown, who started 13 games in 4 seasons in the NFL. They guaranteed him $500,000. They signed Saron Neal, and they guaranteed him $2.25 million to be a special teams ace. So I would imagine he's going to be the 5th corner and special teams ace. You have Derek Canteen and Jacob Robinson, who were signed as undrafted free agents. You have Trey Avery, who's a veteran, kind of a strong veteran, who's bounced around a little bit. And then you have Darrell Luter, who was your draft pick in the 5th round a couple of years ago, who's got great length and can play press man coverage. So that's what you have to compete for cornerback 4, 5, 6. And that's if there's no injuries to any of your top guys. So they really do have a need at corner. Now, what's out there in the free agent market? There's James Bradbury, there's Kendall Fuller, Rajoul Douglas, Mike Hilton, who's a decent slot corner, C.J. Henderson, who once upon a time was a first-round pick, ex-Niner Emmanuel Mosley's still out there, Jack Jones, the former ASU star, was with the Raiders. He's out there. Probably the most interesting free agent name that's available is Asante Samuel Jr., who's had some concussion issues and neck issues, and if he's 100% healthy, you're talking about a guy who's really good corner at Florida State and can break on the ball. And he would be a very nice get if he's healthy. If he's healthy, I think signing Asante Samuel would be smart. Asante Samuel Jr. would be really interesting, but is he healthy? Then there's a couple other names out there. One of them's Martin Emerson of the Cleveland Browns. That might not be a bad name as a guy you could trade for, a veteran that you potentially could trade for sometime this summer. Grant Cohn has thrown out a name as well, and that's Buccaneers corner Jamel Dean, who, according to CBS Sports, his 6-year run with the Buccaneers could be coming to an end. They're saying he's available. He's won a Super Bowl there. So they're talking about either potentially cutting him or trading him. He's due a $15 million cap hit in 2025. And if the Bucs trade him, they clear almost all of that from their cap. So he's 28. He's very much in his prime. He's been a pretty consistently good corner for the past few years. He hasn't necessarily been covered up by the greatest pass rush up front in Tampa. So it's interesting. His base salary for 2025 is $12.5 million. He has no guaranteed money on his contract, and it expires after 2026. The Niners have over $46 million in salary cap space if they want to go after Jamel Dean. So, so that's what you're looking at here. So why is the Arnette thing interesting? It's interesting because I think when you see a name like Arnette who's had problems with the law, that tells you that the 49ers are really, really eager. They're looking under every single stone for a potential corner. And when you're looking for a corner in June, and I asked Robert Saleh, I said, hey, man, you had DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner. Those guys were dudes with the Jets. Do you have any dudes here beyond your starters? And he's like, let me wait till training camp. And it's probably because he really doesn't see anybody like that, but he knows what I'm getting at, which is they're lean on the corner. And Arnette has got good size and really good speed, and he's in the prime of his career. And that's why they showed interest, and now they lose out on him. He goes to the Texans. But it shows that, you know what, they may not be fully satisfied with their cornerback depth. And it's a tough free agent market. And, as far as trades out there, I mean, there's Jalen Ramsey, but it's going to cost you a lot of money. And then there's guys like Martin Emerson and Jamel Dean, and it's probably going to wind up costing you, probably a day 2 pick, maybe a day 3 pick, early day 3 pick. You're probably going to have to trade a 3rd or a 4th or a 5th round pick if you want Martin Emerson, if you want Jamel Dean. But I'll say this. Where are the 49ers? If do I think the Niners are a Super Bowl team? Well, they've got a lot of youth on defense, and they've lost Debo, and they're not going to have Ayuk for a good portion of the year. And, the offensive line's not terrific, and, there's reasons to not like the 49ers. But I think that if I could add to this team, it would be I'd try to add a little pass rush. I'd want to add another receiver, and I'd want to add another corner. So the fact the story is that the Niners went after Damon Arnette, that tells me that John Lynch is really eager to find that cover corner. And, some of those names that we just threw out, Asante Samuel Jr. as a free agent, Martin Emerson as a cost-effective trade, Jamel Dean as a cost-effective trade. Some move like that could be possibly coming down the pike before training camp begins. Just something to watch for. All right, thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krueg Show. Thanks to Claw Daddy Arcades for sponsoring this video. And thanks to all of you for supporting the Krueg Show on YouTube.